May 7th, 2025. Imagine this. A quiet field, Hoshi, Punjab. And then suddenly, something completely out of place.
Fragments. Not just any debris, but pieces later confirmed as belonging to a PL-15 air-to-air missile.
And this isn't, standard ordnance. This is China's premier long-range weapon.
Exactly. Finding this is, well, it's the first time its combat use has ever been confirmed. It's a potential signal, a big one, about shifting power dynamics in South Asia.
Right. And to really get what this means, we need a little context. Remember back in late April 22nd.
The attack in the Pasaran Valley, yes, major incident.
India blamed Pakistan-backed groups, launched Operation Sindoor in response. Then Pakistan came out saying they'd shot down Indian aircraft.
And those claims were, let's say, contested. But this discovery in Hoshi, it casts those Pakistani claims in a very different light.
Even though Islamabad is denying any PL-15 involvement here.
They are denying it, yes. But you have physical evidence on the ground now. It points towards, well, a different reality, a new factor in the aerial equation.
Okay, so that's our focus for this deep dive. We're going beyond the headlines. We want to understand this PL-15 missile, what it does, how it works.
And critically, how its appearance, seemingly out of the blue, changes the military landscape between India and Pakistan.
Let's start with that discovery, fragments in a field. Why is that specific finding, the confirmation, so explosive?
It's the stark contrast, really. You have undeniable physical proof. Indian authorities have identified it definitively as Chinese PL-15 debris.
Okay.
And on the other hand, you have Pakistan's flat-out denial. Those pieces of metal, though, they tell a story of involvement that someone's trying to keep quiet.
So let's talk about the missile itself, the PL-15. What is it? What makes it such a feared piece of technology?
Well, its development started back around 2012, and it officially entered service with the PLAF, the Chinese Air Force, in 2018. Its job, to take out high-value targets. Think AWACS, tankers, maybe even stealth fighters from very, very far away.
How far are we talking?
For the version China uses itself, reports suggest ranges over 124 miles, perhaps even up to 186 miles in some variants. That's reaching out and touching someone before they even see you coming.
That kind of range seems almost game-breaking. What gives it that capability?
It's a few things working together. It has active radar guidance for the final kill phase, so it guides itself.
Right.
It's got a dual-pulse solid fuel motor. Think of it like having two kicks, an initial boost, then another burst later to maintain energy and maneuverability at extreme range.
Kicks its speed up.
Exactly. And it's incredibly fast. We're talking speeds hitting Mach 5, maybe even higher.
Mach 5. That's basically hypersonic territory, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. That speed dramatically cuts down reaction time for the target. Almost no time to evade.
And I assume it has sophisticated sensors to match that speed and range.
Oh, absolutely. It uses an AESA radar active electronically scanned array.
Oh, that's the really advanced stuff.
Yeah,
right?
It is. Instead of a traditional radar dish swinging around, AESA uses thousands of tiny electronic modules. It can steer beams electronically, track multiple targets, resist jamming. It's a huge leap, like having many radars in one.
So track multiple targets, engage from way out. That sounds like a significant advantage.
It's a massive advantage. Now, here's a really crucial point. There are different PL-15 versions. China's own version has that 124-plus mile range, but there's an export version, the PL-15E.
Okay.
The PL-15E's range is deliberately reduced down to about 90 miles, significantly less capable.
And the debris found in Hoshi?
Identified as the full-range domestic Chinese version, not the export model.
Which immediately raises the question, how did that specific missile get into this fight?
Exactly, and it ties into these claims, these reports about its actual performance in this conflict.
Yeah, the sources we looked at allege something pretty significant.
The claim is that this missile system, the PL-15, presumably fired from Pakistani jets, actually downed 3 Indian Rafale fighters.
3 Rafales. It's a huge claim. The Rafale is a top-tier jet.
It is. If true, it's a major validation for the PL-15 system and a massive wake-up call. It suggests the missile isn't just impressive on paper, it's effective against very advanced Western aircraft.
Which brings us neatly to Pakistan's side of the equation. It sounds like their Air Force has received a substantial boost.
A very substantial boost. Pakistan's JF-17 Thunder, specifically the Block 3 variant, is now integrated with the PL-15.
And the JF-17 Block 3 is the one co-developed with China.
That's the one. And crucially, the Block 3 isn't just an airframe upgrade. It includes modern avionics and, significantly, its own AES radar.
Ah, so the fighter itself has the advanced radar needed to really use the PL-15 effectively.
Precisely. It's the system integration that matters. The Block 3 can also carry the PL-10, which is a very capable, short-range, high-off-boresight missile. So you have a fighter with advanced sensors, long-range punch with the PL-15, and short-range lethality with the PL-10.
It's a complete package.
It is. And what's also striking is how quickly this seems to have happened.
What do you mean?
Reports indicate that PL-15 rounds were transferred directly from Chinese Air Force stockpiles, actual PLA Air Force Reserve missiles, to Pakistan.
Not through a normal arms sale process.
Apparently not. This reportedly happened around April 28th, just days after the Basarn Valley incident. That kind of speed suggests, well, deep logistical cooperation and perhaps pre-planning.
Which speaks volumes about the China-Pakistan relationship. Of course, the underlying tension between India and Pakistan, that's nothing new.
Not at all. The Kashmir dispute goes back to 1947. Multiple wars, countless smaller clashes. We saw a major flare-up in 2019 with the Balakot airstrikes.
All right. And back then, Pakistan used American missiles, didn't they? AIM-120s.
Yes. U.S.-applied AIM-120 C-5 AMRAAMs were used in the dogfight that followed Balakot. That was seen as significant then, American tech versus primarily Russian and French tech on the Indian side.
But this PL-15 incident, it feels like a shift.
It absolutely marks a shift. Now you have advanced Chinese weaponry seemingly taking center stage in a potential India-Pakistan aerial clash. That changes the strategic narrative.
So let's compare. How does this new PL-15 threat stack up against India's current air combat capabilities?
India has a powerful air force, no doubt. They fly Russian Su-30 Mk3s, the French Rafales we mentioned, and their own indigenous Tejas fighter.
Okay.
Their main domestically developed beyond visual range missile is the Astra. The Astra Mk3 has a range estimated around 62 to 75 miles.
So significantly shorter range than the PL-15's claimed 124 plus miles.
Considerably shorter, yes. While the Astra is a capable weapon, the PL-15 simply outranges it by a large margin. It creates a disparity in engagement distance.
But didn't you say the Indian Rafales carry the Meteor missile? I thought that had very long range.
You're absolutely right. The Rafale carries the MBDA Meteor, which is often cited with ranges exceeding 124 miles, sometimes much more depending on launch parameters. It uses a ramjet motor for sustained power.
So on paper, the Meteor should be a match for the PL-15, range-wise.
On paper, yes. It's considered one of the best air-to-air missiles in the world. However, and this is crucial, we have those allegations of PL-15s successfully downing Rafales in this recent conflict.
Right.
If those reports are accurate, it suggests that factors beyond just quoted maximum range, maybe seeker performance, electronic warfare, tactics, maybe even the JF-17's AESA radar performance, could be giving the PL-15 an edge in actual combat scenarios, or at least neutralizing the Meteor's theoretical advantage.
That's a sobering thought. And this must ripple outwards, geopolitically.
Oh, definitely. Think about the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC. That's a huge $62 billion infrastructure project binding them together. That economic relationship fosters deep defense ties. It likely enabled this kind of rapid missile transfer we discussed. This whole event amplifies Beijing's influence in the region significantly, its power projection.
And hanging over all of this, the nuclear capabilities of both countries.
Always. That's the constant grim backdrop. Both India and Pakistan are nuclear powers. Introducing highly advanced conventional weapons like the PL-15 with its extreme range, it makes the escalation ladder potentially shorter and steeper.
How so?
Because the ability to strike deep and fast with conventional weapons might tempt a side to take decisive action, but it also forces the other side to consider worst-case scenarios much sooner. It compresses decision times in a crisis, which is dangerous when nuclear weapons are involved.
So faced with this new reality, what's India doing? What's their response?
Well, immediately they activated their S-400 air defense systems.
Right.
Those are Russian-made, very long-range surface-to-air missiles, capable of engaging targets out to 250 miles in some cases. That's about securing their own airspace.
Like putting up a stronger shield.
Exactly. But they're also looking at the offensive side, the longer-term counter. Reports suggest they're fast-tracking their own next-generation missile, the Astra Mk3, or Astra Mk3, as some sources call it.
Aiming for similar range to the PL-15.
That seems to be the goal, yes, to develop an indigenous missile that can match or exceed the PL-15's capabilities.
Are they looking for international help, too? Buying off the shelf?
There are discussions, apparently, about potentially acquiring the U.S. AIM-260. That's the Joint Advanced Tactical Missile Program, still in development, but explicitly designed to outrange current and future threats like the PL-15.
So, a two-pronged approach. Build their own, potentially buy American.
It looks that way. The focus is clearly on boosting their own long-range air-to-air capabilities, advancing their own ASA radars, dual-pulse motors, networked warfare, all the key ingredients.
And what about the wider world? How is the international community reacting?
There's definitely concern. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio publicly called for de-escalation around May 6th, trying to cool things down.
Any other moves?
Interestingly, around the same time, the U.S. approved a sale of advanced AMRAAM missiles, the AIM-120C8 variant, to Saudi Arabia. Now, that might seem unrelated.
But maybe a signal, balancing China's arms exports.
It could be interpreted that way, yes. A move to reassure allies and potentially counter growing Chinese influence in regional arms markets. Beyond the public statements, there are also quieter efforts. Track 2 dialogues.
What's that?
That's where former officials, retired generals, academics, experts from both sides meet unofficially, trying to find ways to build confidence, manage risks, keep communication channels open, even if formal talks are stalled.
So, stepping back, what are the broader takeaways from the PL-15's appearance on this stage?
Well, for one, the global arms market will be watching very closely. If the PL-15 really did perform as claimed against Rafales, that's a massive advertisement. It could shift procurement priorities for air forces worldwide towards longer-range systems.
And tactically, for pilots.
Tactics will have to adapt. Engagements starting at over 100 miles away. That requires different training, different electronic warfare, different reliance on network data. It changes how you even think about air combat.
And psychologically.
Huge psychological impact. It's a stark reminder that the technological edge can shift, and shift quickly. Even advanced air forces need to constantly adapt because the threat landscape is evolving rapidly. The idea of a missile coming from that far out, it's unsettling.
Okay, so let's try and summarize the core message here. What's the main takeaway from this deep dive?
I think the key point is that the combat debut of China's PL-15 missile represents a really significant moment, possibly an escalation, in the India-Pakistan military dynamic. It puts advanced Chinese tech right at the center of the conflict, directly challenging the existing power balance and potentially changing the rules of air warfare in that region.
And it throws that dangerous relationship between advanced conventional weapons and the ever-present nuclear threat into really sharp relief.
Absolutely. Which leads us, I think, to the final thought for you, our listener. Considering what we've discussed, the capabilities demonstrated, or at least claimed, for the PL-15, does introducing this kind of advanced weaponry actually deter conflict in South Asia? Does it make war less likely?
Or does it just accelerate the arms race, making the region even more dangerous and increasing the chances of a catastrophic miscalculation?
It's something to really think about the long-term consequences of this technological leap in such a volatile part of the world.